basically rebuking division. You know, all the people out there that divide, you know who they are. You see them on Facebook every day or on Twitter. You know, it's kind of rebuking that.
Right.
Like, get away from me, man. I don't want your negativity. Just stay away. I'm going down a different path. And, you know, so there's a lot of stuff like that on the album, just that will hopefully give people something good instead of something bad.
Well, I love that, and I've said this before. I've said it on social media. I've maybe even said it to you directly, Michael, that I've got a playlist on my phone, and I've labeled God Speaking Through Stryper. So there are certain songs that the Lord has just really spoken to me through Stryper music, and so I add to that as albums come along. And so certainly you're talking about the positive messages and the songs on Eating Devil to Leave. But seriously, man, what keeps you going in this business? I mean, you've been at this now over 30 years, and you've taken the hits, you've taken them from the rock world, you've taken them from the Christian world, you've seen musical formats change from, cassettes and 8 tracks to downloads now and everything. What keeps you going? Well,
that's a great question, and I wouldn't be honest if I told you, hey, it's God, and that's never going to change, and it's often, obviously, I give credit to God, but sometimes I give credit to my wife, I give credit to my kids, I give credit to looking out my window right now and seeing just green trees and green grass and a blue sky, the day. I also struggle with sometimes of those days of waking up on the wrong side of the bed like anyone else, because I'm human, and reading something online and wanting to tell that person to go themselves.
Yeah.
I'm a man like anybody else, and I have these same kinds of feelings, But I always try to step back. That's the one thing I try to do with everything that I say or respond to. I try to step back and think about what I say before I say it. Because once you put it out there, it's out there forever, right? Screenshots, and you can't erase it.
Right.
Once you put it out there, so you got to be careful. But, I mean, my secret, if I even have a secret, is just keep moving. I keep moving. I'm not a guy that gets knocked down and stays down. You'd never get me to basically step in the ring and take a dive. Don't call Michael Sweet to do that. Not going to happen.
Wow. So, Michael, I think I speak on behalf of many, many other guitarists out there that happen to be fans of yours. And, one of the things that I appreciate the most is the effort and work that you put into what you do, whether that's Stryper, whether that's solo, whether it was Boston, all the different gigs, so to speak, that you've been a part of. You always bring top-notch level effort, and the common person doesn't realize how much work goes into just one guitar solo, or even harmonizing that one guitar solo, and it's just incredible. So I say that to ask you this, as I'm sure many other people have thought about this as well. Is there any thought of doing a guitar instrumental album of Michael Sweet?
Well, I mean, I guess it's something I could do. Even thinking about it overwhelms me a little bit, but it's something I could do. I've never really viewed myself as like that kind of a guitar player, an instrumental guitar player. And I think some of that is because, I'm not viewed as a guitar player sometimes. And I'm not asking for violins here at all, but I literally live it and experience it on a daily basis, where we go perform and someone comes up to me at every show and says, man, I didn't know you played guitar. And it truly just kind of blows my mind. It blows my mind.
And from being a amateur guitarist myself and other guitarist friends, that's one of the hardest things to hear as a guitarist. You put all that work in, and they say, "Oh, I didn't know you did that."
Yeah, and then if you say something about it, you got an ego.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
If you say, well, if someone says, "Hey, Oz, dude, I love that solo," and then I go, "Well, I played that solo," I'm an egomaniac. And it's like, wow, it's crazy to me. It's so weird. But, I've just never viewed myself as that kind of guitar player. But, I certainly could do that easily. I could make an instrumental album. And maybe someday I will. That might be kind of fun. And on the last solo album, 10, I decided to bring in different guitar players for every song. And the reason why I did that is I wanted to make it less Stryper.
Right.
That was my way of trying to make it less Stryper, But maybe one of these days I'll do an album where I'm playing every solo on it.
That would be great.
And people can hear a different side of Michael Sweet as a guitar player, and probably many people would be like, I had no idea he could play.
War and were just, oh my gosh, those were two of your best albums in your career, and that includes Stryper and that includes Sweet and Lynch. Those two albums were just extraordinary. But obviously you've gotten into the producing so much and really getting your hand in all of the creative aspect of putting an album together. And you'd said once, if Van Halen came calling, you would love to produce a Van Halen album. Seriously, any projects like that you maybe actually have in the works, or anything that you're really trying to get a hold of to produce for any other artists?
I've got a lot of projects in the works that I'm co-producing or producing and whatnot. But, I'll never be taken serious as a producer, and that's fine. That's just kind of the hand I've been dealt. It's, I guess, because I'm a musician in the band, and if you produce an album for the band you're in, you're not the producer. You're just not. It doesn't matter. Now, if we brought in someone else who's a named, world-renowned producer, everyone would say, "Oh my God, it was produced by so-and-so." But if you produce it yourself, nobody even notices. And it's really interesting to me because, to be totally honest, the old albums in the old days, we co-produced. Those albums would never have turned out like they turned out if it wasn't for us. Like Soldiers Under Command, everything was done. Every single part, every note was worked out. All Michael Wagner had to do was basically press play on the machine and hit record. And put the mics up and get good tones, of course, but I'm just saying, a producer is so much more than that. A producer is being part of the arrangement and the pre-production and working out parts and working out this and that and melodies and, really taking the seat. Michael really didn't have a lot to do because everything was ready to go. Same with To Hell with the Devil. Stephen Gelfast. He didn't have anything to do except record us. Same thing for Against the Law, Tom Warman. We rehearsed all the stuff. We worked out all the parts. We had everything together, and he went in and just said, "Eddie, press record." And, a lot of people don't know that. And that's fine. They get all the credit for being the world-renowned, incredible producers to make those albums sound like they did. But no credit really goes to the band. And, the difference between Stryper and most other bands is we grew up in studios. I grew up in a studio when I was 10 years old. I was going to the studio with my dad. And I knew how the recording process worked. I knew how to get tones. I knew how to record. I knew how to do this. I knew how to do that. So we brought a lot to the table in that regard. So we really co-produced all those albums, but there's just no mention of it on the albums themselves.
Well, what doesn't make sense to me about that is I'm thinking, who better to do that than the band members themselves. I mean, you're the ones who created the music.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's true with some bands. That's true. That would apply with some bands. With other bands, you don't want them to produce one note. And I say that with all due respect. I mean, I've produced bands where I've gone in there and they didn't have a clue what they were doing. You know, the songs weren't the way they were approaching the song and the parts they were working out, and the guitar player was soloing over the whole song. You know, you got to have someone step in and say, no, don't do this, don't do that, do this, do that. You know, if it's not what's best for the song or for the album. So, you know, that's important. Stryper is one of those bands that really knows how to do that. Like we know what we want. We grew up around studios. We know how to produce. We know how to make it happen. And especially over the past 10 years, I've really fine-tuned that part of what I do, but still nobody notices, you know. Nobody notices. In other words, if this new album coming out, this is produced by me, even the devil believes, and no one will even talk about the production, pretty much. But if Michael Wagner had produced it, everyone would talk about the production. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'm not whining about that. I'm just stating facts. It's a weird thing. I can't explain it, but if you're in the band and you produce the album, you may as well not even put your name on the album as producer, because it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So, you know, Michael, you know, Stryper, obviously, as all of us know, all of your fans that have followed you since the 80s, know the hardships or the challenges that the band has taken over the years. What would you say are the current challenges? Are they the same challenges that you've had, or or is it a different time now in 2020?
It's different. I mean, it's certainly, obviously, this year has changed dramatically in the past 6-7 months, as we all know. So this one's going to go down in the history books of one of a kind for sure. But I mean, the music business is tough. It always has been, but nowadays with streaming and payout being set up differently, you really don't sell hard copies. It's all about streaming and downloads, and not even downloads much anymore. So the bands aren't making as much money. And it's very hard to make a living at music. Very difficult. And now you put COVID into the blender, and it's next to almost impossible to make a living. And it's just the way it is. So you have to just be a driven personality, which I am, thank God. You know, I come from that school of nothing's going to stop me. I don't care, man. You know, I could be looking out the window right now and seeing, a hurricane, a Category 6 hurricane coming. And, I'd be fearful and prepping to get the house ready and everything, but it's not going to stop me. If it mows down the house and I've got nothing left in this world, I'm not going to give up. I'm always going to keep moving and trying and doing, because that's just how I'm built. So that really helps me to survive situations like this. But man, I fear for a lot of musicians in this business right now, the music business. It almost appears like there's no hope. There always is, but it appears as though there's none. And I just keep praying for all the musicians out there, and hopefully I can inspire them and be a light,
Well, hopefully there won't be a hurricane that comes and strikes your house, and if it did, hopefully it would spare some of your incredible guitars. Real quick.
Yeah,
they're all here at the house, I know.
I'm just standing outside the house trying to catch one. Yeah.
What guitars are we going to see you bringing to the stage when Stryper gets back out there?
Well, I was with Washburn for almost 4 years, and I wound up signing on because of a gentleman by the name of Gil Sousey. And Gil was old school. Is old school. He's still alive, obviously, still doing it. And I love Gil because he always thought like a true artists